Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live as we are starting our second live stream of the day. If you're watching us live right now or on replay, or you scrubbed back and you're just going to watch the whole thing, thanks so much for doing so as we get ready to see President Trump there at the White House. He'll be meeting with the president from the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. We'll have all of that coverage right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Okay, so it's 10:32. We know that according to the president's public schedule, that at 11 this morning, both presidents will meet outside of the White House. At about 11:15, they'll then have the kind of that bilateral meeting that we've seen in the Oval Office, and then the president will take questions from the press. That's usually the way it's been. We'll have all of that live here for you. Also, a bit later today at 2 o'clock, we'll cover a Senate Judiciary hearing regarding Biden's border betrayal titled Criminal Aliens in America. That's at 2 o'clock. And then at 7 tonight, the president will participate in a reception with Republican members of Congress. That's from the East Room. At this point, it says closed press, but in times past, sometimes we would still get either a live feed or a recorded feed of it, and we could still upload that kind of thing here on the network. Also, just yesterday, Carolyn Levitt, of course, spoke to the press outside the White House. Just in case you missed it, let's go to that right now.
Caroline, good afternoon. Hey, children, good afternoon, children.
It's good to see all of you. And yesterday, as you all know, we celebrated 6 months of the Trump administration. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you day in and day out here at the White House. 6 months, the most transparent administration in history, if I may add. And I know the president just wanted me to highlight his accomplishments over the past 6 months. As you all remember, because you all covered it on the campaign trail, the president really promised the American people many things, but at the top of that list was to defeat the Biden inflation crisis and to secure our border and our homeland. And I think you've all seen in 6 months' time, the president has delivered on those two core campaign promises. Inflation is now running at a 2.1% annual rate. You look at our southern border, look at the numbers. Just last month, 0 illegal aliens were released into our country. And then look at what the president has done on the world stage. He has ended wars like India and Pakistan. He continues to work aggressively to end the war in Russia and Ukraine. He completely obliterated Iran's nuclear sites. He has continued to hopefully negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza to end that conflict and release all of the hostages. We've seen many of the hostages released as a result of this president's efforts. And this president is working around the clock every day to deliver on the promises he made. You also look at some of the cultural issues, to abolish DEI from our federal government and our military, to effectively end men and women's sports, which is a huge common sense policy that the American people support. And then if you look at the president's strong executive orders that have effectively ended the chemical castration of young children in our country. Just today, Washington, D.C. Children's Hospital in this city has announced they are no longer going to be prescribing puberty blockers to minors. This is a huge win for America and our children. There's certainly more work to do, and the president is doing it right now, and he will continue for the next 3.5 years. But certainly we've accomplished so much in just 6 months, and I'm happy to take some questions. Go ahead.
Was the president serious, or was he joking this weekend when he said he might block a Washington Commanders stadium deal if they don't change their name?
The president was serious, and as part of the art of the deal, part of his negotiating skills, as you know, sports is one of the many passions of this president, and he wants to see the name of that team changed.
Why is he getting involved in that? Why does he see that as part of his purview?
I think you've seen the president gets involved in a lot of things that most presidents have not. He's a non-traditional president. He likes to see results on behalf of the American people. And if you actually poll this issue with sports fans across the country and even in this city, people actually do support the president's position on this and the name change. Michael, go ahead, and then Mary, you can go.
Thank you, Caroline. What's the White House's reaction to Senator Chuck Grassley today releasing the formerly classified Clinton annex showing that the Comey-led FBI failed to fully investigate Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server, also failed to really look into thumb drives with potential national security risks on them, and emails from President Obama?
It comes as no surprise, unfortunately, and I think that's why you've seen the FBI open up investigations into the individual you mentioned and some others as well.
Caroline.
Why hasn't the president just ordered the FBI to release the full Epstein files, just get it all out there?
The president has said if the Department of Justice and the FBI want to move forward with releasing any further credible evidence, they should do so. As to why they have or have not or will, you should ask the FBI about that. Go ahead.
More information North Carolina?
It's up to the Attorney General.
Does the president have any message for the countries that are planning to attend the two-state solution conference that's taking place later this month?
I'm not quite sure he has a particular message for those countries. I think the president's message on this conflict we've seen in the Middle East taking place for far too long that has become quite brutal, especially in recent days. You've seen reports of more people dying. The president never likes to see that. He wants the killing to end, and he wants to negotiate a ceasefire in this region. He wants to see all of the hostages released from Gaza. That has been a top priority for this president. Within this 6 months, we have seen many of the hostages released, including the last living American hostage, Edon Alexander, which was a result of this administration's diplomatic efforts and approach to ending this conflict. And again, this is another conflict that the president inherited from the previous administration, who was so weak and incompetent, it led to so much chaos and death around the world, but this president is focused on solving it. Kelly, go ahead.
Thank you. So at 6 months, the president is also experiencing some pushback from members of his own MAGA base, especially on the matter of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Is the president satisfied that his own supporters are not heeding his call to let it go and to move on?
I know the president would reject that, Kelly. In fact, he cited over the weekend some polls showing that his approval rating with the Republican Party is actually at an all-time high. He's polling 90 to 95% amongst Republicans right now. That's higher than any Republican president or any leader of this party ever. The president is the creator and the leader of the Make America Great Again movement. It's his baby that he made, and he knows what his supporters want. It's transparency, and he has given them that on all accounts when it comes to everything this administration has done, especially when it just comes to the president himself, taking questions from all of you and the press corps on a near daily basis, multiple times a week. No question is off limits here at this White House, not just for the president, but myself as well. Kelly. Again, as I just answered, the president has told the Attorney General and the FBI director to release any credible evidence that they find, and he also signaled to them over the weekend to move forward with unsealing the grand jury documents that were under seal by various judges across the country, and I believe the Attorney General has taken the proper legal action to do that. Kelly.
You mentioned there also Israel seen stepping up some attacks in Gaza. Has the president expressed his frustration with Netanyahu, and how does this impact the ceasefire negotiation?
Well, look, the president enjoys a good working relationship with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu and stays in frequent communication with him. He was caught off guard by the bombing in Syria and also the bombing of a Catholic church in Gaza, which, as you know, I addressed at my briefing last week. And in both accounts, the president quickly called the prime minister to rectify those situations. And we saw Secretary Rubio intervene when it came to Syria. We saw a de-escalation there. And as for the bombing of the Catholic church in Gaza, the prime minister did put out a statement saying this was an accident and they deeply regretted that action on behalf of the state of Israel, following his conversation with the president. Jordan.
Has the White House taken a position on Maria Salazar's work visa bill, and ideally, what does the president want to see with a work program for aliens?
Again, I know you asked me about that last week, and I regret to inform you my answer remains the same. I don't think that's the focus of the White House right now in terms of legislative priorities, but certainly I promise you we'll get a readout on the bill. But as I reiterated to you before, the president does not support amnesty for illegal alien criminals, and I think the tragic circumstance that took place in New York City this past weekend underscores the priority of this president to secure our homeland and to deport illegal alien criminals and public safety threats from our country and our community. That's this president's priority right now.
That in the last several months, Americans have become more hesitant about President Trump's different ways that he's been conducting immigration. They think that it's going too far. Is the White House going to limit any ways that it is enforcing immigration across the country?
I think the Trump administration is going to continue to focus on removing public safety threats and illegal alien criminals from sanctuary cities. The president himself has said that's the priority for him in this administration, which the vast majority of Americans do still support, removing illegal, heinous criminals from their communities. And ultimately, the best poll that was ever taken was on November 5th, when nearly 80 million Americans voted to re-elect this president. largely because of his immigration policies, and we've seen they've been a resounding success. Again, 0 illegal aliens were released into the country last month. That's a good thing for all of us standing here and for Americans across the country.
Carolyn, there are reports that President Trump or that FBI agents going through the Epstein files were told to flag President Trump's name if it came up. Is that something the president was aware of, or something that he directed those agents or the Department of Justice to do?
I don't believe that's something the White House was aware of. You'd have to ask the FBI.
Carolyn, is President Trump satisfied with how aid's being distributed in Gaza right now?
Look, the president is the reason that aid is even being distributed in Gaza at all. He wants to see this done in a peaceful manner where more lives are not being lost. He hated seeing the pictures of starvation of women and children needing that, desperately needing that aid, which is why this administration came to a creative solution to bring that aid into the region. And we want to make sure that aid is delivered to people in need, but certainly does not end up in the hands of terrorists. I think both things can be done at the same time. Look, it's a very difficult and complicated situation, again, that the president inherited because of the weakness of the last administration. And I think he should be applauded and the administration should be applauded for coming up with a creative solution to get aid into the region. The president wants to see peace, and he's been pretty clear about that, and our national security team continues to work on this every single day, but of course it's a very complicated situation.
The budget over the weekend, Commerce Secretary had some pretty tough words for the Fed. It's good to see you.
Hi, Mark. You're sneaking in back there.
I know, I wish I was taller. The Commerce Secretary over the weekend had some pretty tough words for the Federal Reserve Chairman. The White House has kind of sent some mixed messages whether or not his job is safe or not. Will Powell be allowed to finish his term as Federal Reserve Chairman or not?
Look, Mark, the president talked about this and answered these questions for you pretty extensively in the Oval Office. He has no plans to fire the Fed chair, but he has been very transparent in expressing his displeasure with Jerome Powell's management of the Fed and also his policies. And the president is right, by the way. He's been saying this for a while, but finally, economists and experts are agreeing with him that Jerome Powell should cut interest rates. If you look at our country, by every economic metric right now, it is booming. Look at the trillions of dollars the president has brought in foreign investments. Look at inflation, like I said, continues to go down. He's basically defeated it in just 6 months. If you look at the massive deregulatory campaign this administration has lost, look at the cost of goods. The cost of oil is down 20%. We've added 700,000 jobs to the economy in just 6 months. The manufacturing sector is ticking up again. By all accounts, this is a good economy. In fact, the Wall Street Journal, wherever you are, did in fact give credit for that today. They said that the economy has its swagger back, which is one way to put it. But I think that it's true. And I think that the Fed chair needs to lower interest rates. The president is right about that. And finally, people are catching up to the president on that. Brian, go ahead.
Has the president shared any additional thoughts on privatizing TSA?
Privatizing the TSA. I haven't heard him talk about that, but perhaps it would be a good idea. I think we can all agree there's a little bit of bureaucracy when you move through an airport, but I'll get with the president, or perhaps you can ask him yourself next time, Brian.
Go ahead.
Carolyn. The Congressional Budget Office released updated estimates today about the Big Beautiful Bill now that it's law. They estimate that the deficit will grow by $3.4 trillion by 2034, and that 10 million people will lose health coverage by 2034. I know you guys are critical of the CBO. More broadly speaking, is there any concern from the administration that this bill, now that it's law, will increase the deficit in any way or remove anyone from health insurance that they have as legal citizens?
No, look, this bill was a great bill for the American people. It was the largest tax cut for middle and working class families in our nation's history. And the president wants to see this country get our fiscal house in order. That's why this was a fiscally responsible bill, one of the most fiscally conservative pieces of legislation for its size that has ever crossed through Capitol Hill. And the president wants to cut our deficit. That's why he's effectively using tariffs to bring more revenue into the United States to ultimately pay down our debt that has been created by presidents on both sides of the aisles for many, many decades.
There are 11 days until that August 1st trade tariffs deadline. What can we expect between now and August 1st in terms of potential announcements of trade deals with any countries?
Look, I can tell you the trade team and the president himself continue to be very engaged with countries around the world when it comes to our trade agreements. You have the president of the Philippines who will be visiting the White House tomorrow. Perhaps this will be a topic of discussion. You will all see for yourselves in the Oval Office, as you always do. But the August 1st deadline is just really the start date for when the United States of America will begin collecting this revenue from all of the countries around the world who the president president has sent these letters to. You could see some more letters before August 1st, John. You could have some more trade announcements as well. I can tell you the president, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of Commerce, Ambassador Greer all continue to be in constant communication with our trading partners. Yes, sure.
Thank you. How did you see the tariff negotiations with South Korea being fundamentally different with those with Japan?
I can check in on the status of the South Korean trade talks for you.
Special envoy is visiting Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah. Does President Trump still believe diplomacy?
Who is visiting?
Tom Barak.
Okay.
Special envoy Tom Barak is visiting Lebanon regarding disarming Hezbollah. Does President Trump still believe diplomacy can work with Lebanon while Hezbollah keeps its weapons?
Look, I think the president wants to see diplomacy work with Lebanon and all of the partners in the Middle East. You know, the president has been very clear when it comes to his priorities for Iran. He obliterated their nuclear capability, and I understand that the administration continues to be open to talks with Iran if we deem them necessary. As for Tom Barak's trip, I know the president supports him and he's doing a great job in Syria.
Caroline. According to the House Judiciary Committee, the Biden administration sent nearly $1 billion in taxpayer funds to the left organization in Israel to oppose Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. What is the White House reaction?
Well, it's not a surprise to me that the previous administration sent billions of dollars overseas for useless priorities that don't advance America's interests. We've seen a lot of that, which is why this administration has been very focused on clawing a lot of that money back and making sure the American government is spending American tax dollars on America's priorities. Thank you, guys. I'll see you later.
All right, so 10:49 Eastern Time here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, awaiting the president to meet and greet the president of the Philippines, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. That's happening in about 11 minutes. Before we continue our coverage today, let's go to angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas, of course. You're looking at the Miracle Cream. There's a number of other products as well that you can check out. Just go to angelpaste.com. Be sure to use that RSBN promo code. A great group out of Spring, Texas. They hire military veterans, a longtime sponsor here with great products right there on your screen. Again, a shout out to all the small businesses across our country, including angelpaste.com, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, as we're about 11 minutes, now 10 minutes out from that 11 o'clock hour. Thanks so much for joining us throughout the country right now as we have a number of live streams going on. Of course, the other one is the GOP press conference, the leadership press conference there that we started out the day with at about 9 a.m. That's, I believe, still ongoing. Now we're shifting our attention to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. A bit later, we'll cover the Senate Judiciary hearing titled Biden's Border Betrayal, Criminal Aliens in America. Tonight, we're also seeing on the president's public schedule that he'll participate in a reception with Republican members of Congress from the East Room. That's tonight at 7. That may or may not be a live feed that any network gets. As of right now, excuse me, it says it's closed press. So we'll see what happens there. In the meantime, let's go to a number of videos from the Department of Defense and Customs Border Protection, as these are new videos within the 24/7 news cycle. Of course, there's a lot of news going on. If you didn't catch the details from Pam Bondi in regards to the Epstein case, we talked about that in our prior broadcast. And also we reviewed the Department of National Intelligence report, the information from Tulsi Gabbard in regards to 2016 and Barack Obama and all of that. We talked about all of that in the prior broadcast. We may dip into some of that here as we wait for the president, but definitely a lot of news to talk about today throughout this 24/7 news cycle on this Tuesday, July 22nd. Okay, let's go to the Department of Defense. Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, posted this video just yesterday.
Recognize the pilots who flew those bombers, who flew those fighters, who flew those refuelers. Every American involved in this operation performed flawlessly. The Marines that I see in the Indo-Pacific are the eyes of deterrence. It is on your shoulders that we stand. And it is to you that I am committed each and every day to simply have your back. That's all I ever wanted when I was a young leader. I wanted leaders that gave me a clear mission, the resources to do it, the training to do it, so we were ready, and then had our back when we had to make difficult decisions at difficult places that politicians in air-conditioned offices will never understand. That's our pledge to you. That's what President Trump always wants me to communicate to you, and that's what we will follow through on.
All right, so that from the Secretary of Defense just yesterday with the Department of Defense, of course. And then also, let's shift over to the Customs Border Protection. There was this incident that happened along the southern border. Take a look.
On July 9, 2025, United States Border Patrol agents here at the Santa Teresa station were able to rescue a female from Mexico that she fell over the fence. As she was trying to make her way illegally into the country, she said that she was pushed by these teenage smugglers once she became hesitant on coming off the fence. She was pushed over the edge of the fence. Luckily for her, she was rescued on time. She was transported to a near hospital to receive further medical assistance. But these things happen very often. Multiple kids here in the water area are being lured into the smuggling rings by the transnational criminal organizations, posting on social media saying that they can earn a lot of cash, when the reality is they're just becoming entangled in this network of human smuggling. The reality is they're going to be placing other individuals in dangerous positions. The advice is simple from United States Border Patrol. If you're thinking about crossing the border illegally, don't do it. If you're thinking about earning cash through these cartels, don't do it. It is dangerous. They're going to place your life, they're going to place other lives in danger, and at the end of the day, you're going to just be arrested and end up in jail.
Some new videos from Customs Border Protection and also the Department of Defense. Of course, there are a lot of departments out there within government, and this administration really being transparent with a lot of the information, a lot of the videos moving forward. So if you've been keeping the context of what's going on, we heard from Carolyn Levitt yesterday. We see President Trump's Truth Social post. We see the government accounts on X and Truth Social posting what's going on, and not shying away from specifically the investigation into 2016 that the Department of National Intelligence is doing, but also when it comes to sharing that information with the FBI and DOJ. And then also Pam Bondi today with the Attorney General, speaking with Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, saying that they are going to soon be speaking with Ghislaine Maxwell with the whole Epstein situation. So there's a lot of the transparency that we're seeing happen right here. We're covering as much as we can. There's a lot of news stories right now, to be honest, which we are as much as possible, if not all the time. I mean, most likely, I mean, think about it. We're always talking about common sense. We're always talking about the right side of history. And it's just like, there's so many stories that are happening out there, and to cover all of them, the amount of time it takes to cover each of these subjects would take about an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours. I know that we don't have all of that time, so what we do is we go over the different stories. But if there was a sit-down interview, sometimes it would last 3 hours to really dive into something. I mean, if you look at just specifically President Trump's Truth Social post from the other day, as we're looking live outside the White House there, he said Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax. Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this. It's the crime of the century, irrefutable evidence, a major threat to our country. President Trump said that just the other day. We can look into specifically with DNI and Tulsi Gabbard and see what information is being shared with the DOJ and the FBI. Specifically, we can talk about that even right now as we're tracking any new developments from DNI. I mean, details into how in 2016, Director Gabbard says intelligence was politicized and weaponized by the most powerful people in the Obama administration to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. subverting the will of the American people and undermining our democratic republic. So that from Tulsi Gabbard. Another story we're following when it comes to today's news cycle, right here within the past couple hours, in a statement from Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche regarding the Epstein case. We have this post that we've been showing on the other live stream, but we'll show it to you here. Todd Blanche has said the following: this Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. The joint statement by the DOJ and FBI, according to Todd Blanche, the Deputy AG, of July 6 remains as accurate today as it was when it was written. Namely, that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. President Trump, according to Todd Blanche here, has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Therefore, at the direction of the Attorney General Bondi, of course, Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, says, I have communicated with counsel for Ms. Maxwell to determine whether she would be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Ms. Maxwell in the coming days. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. If you go to X, actually, there's the latest post from Todd Blanche. So we're going to go to that on the fly real quick and read you what he's saying here as we get that pulled up. This is, again, when we're fully live, RSBN live here, we always see many stories that are happening. And we juggle them, and we want to bring you everything that we see as the freshest or the latest on these subject matters. Of course, we'll be going to the president here shortly as he's meeting with the Philippine president in just a minute. And we always are bringing up President Trump's Truth Social posts as well. Now, Todd Blanche said 3 hours ago, justice demands courage. For the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine Maxwell to ask, what do you know? At Pam Bondi's direction, I've contacted her counsel. I intend to meet with her soon. No one is above the law, and no lead is off limits. So tracking that story, tracking the national intelligence report that's being sent to FBI and DOJ over the 2016 situation with Barack Obama and all, we're monitoring this. This is what they call a fluid situation. You think about those two stories. Then now we'll be covering the president here as he meets with the Philippine leader, Marcos Jr. On top of that, there was a GOP leadership press conference moments ago talking about all sorts of topics. There's so much going on. But when this happens, when there's all this going on, I like to break it down to a couple of simple things, because it really is about the common sense of God, family, and country. We simply want the truth. We simply want our country to be free. We simply want to report facts of what's going on. And we also like to hear good ideas. Speaking of that, after we see the president here meet with the Philippine president outside, what we'll know is at about 11:15 a.m. or the 15 minutes after that greeting happens, we'll have that live feed from the Oval Office with President Trump and the president of Philippine, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Between that time of the greeting until the meeting, we'll have live video of both of these. In that time frame, we're going to throw to a 4-minute clip of an interview from yesterday. Getting back to my point about hearing from people that have fresh ideas that are based in common sense and truth, to really solidify these reforms that President Trump has been providing to the American people over the past 6 months. We want that full truth and transparency. We want to see that. There's no covering for anybody. What we're covering for is nothing. What we're doing is wanting truth to be shared with the American people, to have us be set free. As Jesus said, he said the truth, you will know the truth and it will set you free. So that's what all of us want. And it's the complete opposite of what the mainstream media has been doing, the constant lies. So on the right side of history and conservative media, we're seeing so much more of common sense truth be reported. And that's where, let's be honest about this too, it's a smart business to get involved in, because think about it, it's on the side of where the people are anyway. we the people are on the side of conservative media. There are a number of, unfortunately, we the people that are on the right side of history that still listen to the junk in the mainstream media. So hopefully more people will understand that conservative media is the way to go. It really is. And I'm glad I don't work in mainstream media. I used to in local news. Nothing against the actual people that worked there. It was just the ideology of being against God, against Trump, against freedom, and all of that. So great to be on the right side of history. So glad you're with us here. As it's 11:02 this morning, we'll throw to that portion of the interview in just a second with conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon, 4-minute portion of it, where he pitched an idea moving forward for this whole situation that we're finding ourselves coming up against. And it's what Stephen Miller said specifically about the deep state. It's still something that is around. There's still things happening, even though they all kind of went into the woodworks or into the forest to kind of hide now that President Trump's in office. There's still things happening, and we're seeing the investigations that are getting fully launched by this administration. So would I rather be talking about the sunny Gulf shores down in Florida right now? Yes. Would I rather talk about the Washington Redskin name change? Yes. Would I rather talk about things that are just, run-of-the-mill basic stories that are happening and positive stories? Yes. But when it comes to keeping our reforms intact and keeping all these 20 core promises for this country and into the future, we still have to have the investigations and the prosecutions, because we're seeing the evidence already when it comes to all the things that have been done against President Trump and we the people. Anyway, all right, so we see there. This is a live feed outside the White House right now, awaiting the Philippine president, that is Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Will be pulling up there shortly. As soon as we see that, we'll take it live. Of course, the president usually steps outside, waves to the cameras. Sometimes the press asks a few questions, but we'll hear. This is what will be interesting about today is, yes, it's always interesting when a foreign leader meets with President Trump, but also within that framework, when the questions are coming from the press, they're live to hear what kinds of topics are brought up. We'll get to that all live right here in just a minute as we go to All Family Pharmacy, a great sponsor here at Right Side. Of course, if you've been frustrated with long pharmacy lines or insurance headaches or just trying to get the medications that you actually want, there's a better way, and it's with All Family Pharmacy. They're changing how people get their medications. So no insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. They carry essentials like NAD Plus and methylene blue and ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 medications. So it's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And guess what? You actually get a doctor's prescription as well. So there's no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple. Quality care from like-minded people, doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing: to make America healthy again. So all I have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 10 promo code for that 10% off. That's RSBN is the promo code there. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. All right, so we're 5 minutes past the hour here, 11 a.m. on the East Coast, 8 o'clock on the West Coast. Thanks so much for watching from coast to coast, and of course in that mountain time zone, some beautiful, beautiful geography in that part of the world. Central time zone, same way. The entire country, beautiful places all the way around. And thanks so much for streaming in with us. Those of you watching, there's usually maybe 5 to 10 to 15 people that have at least said they're watching from a different country. Maybe there's a lot more, who knows? But to those watching around the world, thanks so much for streaming in. As it's 11:06, we're going to see the Philippine president here momentarily. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. will be greeting President Trump outside the West Wing, which is what you see right there. That SUV should be pulling up any second from now. And then the two leaders will go to the Oval Office. We'll bring you that live coverage. And this is always must-watch streaming, in my opinion. Whenever it's President Trump and then there's this basically an open forum in a way. You know, President Trump used to have these meetings after he would greet the foreign leader. They'd go over to the East Room and the two leaders would stand at the podiums and They would share a few messages to the foreign press, to the American press, and to people in attendance, and then they would take questions. Well, now it's more of a relaxed environment in the sense of instead of the East Room, they go directly to the Oval Office. Usually what we would see is the two leaders in front of the fireplace there. They'd say a couple opening statements, then the press would get cleared out of the room. They'd go over to the East Room. Well, what's been happening now is we see that in the Oval Office, both things happen. The meeting between both leaders in front of the press, and then right away they open up to questions. And watch how loud, if memory serves me correctly, and what may happen here, watch how loud the press is when it's time to open up to questions. They're going to start screaming at the president. But, you know, they should do what Carolyn Levitt does when it comes to how it's handled there. They raise their hand, they get picked on. I mean, a bunch of people screaming at once, I don't think that's the best way to do it, but it is what it is. That's just my opinion. And if it's right or wrong, who cares? It's just trying to get the president to talk about certain issues. Well, we'll see what they ask today. Of course, the fake news always likes to bring up all sorts of interesting false narratives, but it's great to see the conservative media in there as well. And it's great to have the freedom to, you know, shift gears right now. You know, think about it. In local news or in mainstream media, they are so scripted. Every word is so carefully written. I'm not reading from a teleprompter right now, but they would have, you know, read this part and go to this story and only cover that story so much. And do. Why are you censoring the news? Why are you censoring truth from the American people? Why are you doing that? And this is what's great about conservative media. We can shift gears. I can talk about this, and I could shift over and say, guess what? The Department of National Intelligence with Tulsi Gabbard has just given the DOJ and the FBI information on 2016 about Barack Obama. Or that Pam Bondi just said that Todd Blanche is going to go talk to Ghislaine Maxwell when it comes to the Epstein story. Or I can shift over and say, hey, we love God, family, and country. This is stuff that you just won't get when it's the scripts from all the, you know, false narrative types, you know? And nothing against scripting, especially if it's in conservative media and it's a monologue to share with the people and all, that's fine. But to have that free spirit of it, that's true freedom in my opinion. And that's why yesterday I was so, I don't know if you watched, and I will show this portion of the interview in a minute as we wait for President Trump here. The reason why I was so passionate yesterday, or at least, I don't know, more heartfelt with what I was saying, was because there is a relief that is what I think people are feeling out there when we know that our government is going to investigate those that have broken the law. Because if we don't have any consequences for people that have, then what makes them not go around and do it again next presidential cycle or the presidential cycle after that? And the reason why I feel more free to be able to say this is because when you hear from people like Stephen Miller, which I'll go to his post here, he's a national treasure in my opinion, and I know a lot of you think the same thing. He said, quote, "There must be justice for the acts of sedition and criminal conspiracy waged by the deep state against President Trump and the United States." And so that part of the United States is all of us. I was telling a buddy the other day, I don't want our country to turn into a UK or China or all these countries where your freedom of speech or your social credit scores or whatever is getting looked at. This country is not about that. And it's great to have an opportunity to be able to share these kind of things, but also for those of you watching right now, those of you that agree, which is the majority of this whole country and the majority of the world, in my opinion, because it's the free world. Again, I bring up China a lot because you think about the people there. Do you think they want to be lorded over in that way? I don't think so. They wouldn't say that because they don't want to get in trouble. Some do say that. You think about all the, I mean, come on. I'm just telling it like it is because we're allowed to, you know, in conservative media, and it's awesome to do that. Of course, we've been covering a lot of news too. So at 9 o'clock this morning on the other broadcast, we had the GOP press conference live. We talked about the news of the day within this 24/7 news cycle. And it's just great to be able to look at that from a perspective of a lens of people that are within common sense, that want our Constitution to be the law of the land, that want freedoms to continue across this land and into the future. These reforms that are happening, these wins by President Trump that are happening now, we want to see that stay solidified for our country to the future. We don't want any more deep state shenanigans, as they say. All right, so in the meantime, as we wait for President Trump there, if you'd like to donate to Right Side Broadcasting Network, that's another thing. We're not corporate media in the sense of big corporations that are woke and they put in the money and they say, you must say this. Nope. So if you'd like to donate, just go to text RSBN to 801-801, also rsbnetwork.com/donate. And we also have a P.O. box if you want to send cash or a check. We heard that there are people that want to send some checks. So 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you so much for supporting conservative media. Literally, those dollars going into all of what you see going on, all these live feeds that we have, all the different things happening here at the network and within conservative media as a whole. So 11:13 this morning. Matthew Alvarez, thanks again for watching live right now. That's a live feed in what looks to be sunny Washington, D.C., outside the West Wing. The Eisenhower Executive Office Building is toward the back of that picture there. That's where that treaty room is. There's a number of press conferences and events that happen there. And of course, that's the West Wing. And then toward the back right there is where the Oval Office is. So we're going to see all of that happen here momentarily, 11:13 this morning. Let's go over a few programming notes. So after 11:15, and after we hear from the president and the Philippine president, at 2 o'clock, we'll start a new live stream covering the Senate Judiciary hearing regarding Biden's border betrayal. It's titled that, along with Criminal Aliens in America. So that's at 2 o'clock. Tonight at 7, according to the president's public schedule, the president will participate in a reception with Republican members of Congress. That'll be in the East Room. As of now, it says closed press, but last time that said that, we saw a live feed or at least a recorded feed that was uploaded. So we'll monitor and see what happens there. Again, President Trump's Truth Social post recently, he said Obama himself manufactured the Russia hoax. Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and numerous others participated in this. The crime of the century, irrefutable evidence, a major threat to our country. That, according to the president, on Truth Social. Also, we know that the president will travel to Scotland this Friday and will return to the States on Tuesday, July 29th. And in September, the commander-in-chief will travel to the United Kingdom, specifically England, as part of the UK there, September 17th to the 19th. All right, so in the meantime, why don't we do this? As we await the Philippine president, we can go to a 4-minute segment of yesterday's interview. And now what we'll do is we can keep the split screen up right now as we await the greeting, because the greeting is very quick. It's a 2 to 5 to 10-second situation where the vehicles pull up and there's a quick wave and then they go inside. And then 15 minutes later is what's scheduled for the Oval Office meeting between the two leaders. So I think we have the time to do this 4-minute segment quickly. And again, we'll keep the split screen. So what we'll do is we can pause maybe the interview and go over to the president just to see that full picture and get back into that interview. It's a lot of inside baseball. It is what it is. Director, can we go to that? Okay, let's do it. So a conservative analyst and author, T.S. Dixon, right? He's been on the broadcast a lot, and he's been really shining a lot of good light or analysis, or at least the take that he has on various things. And if you could watch various interviews from last week till yesterday, he had this as somewhat of a proposal as we look at the deep state square in the eye, and this is what he says we should do. Take a look.
Reagan had the war on drugs. Bush Jr. had his war on terror. I think they've made Trump mad, and I think Trump needs his own war. Is that coming through? Can you put me full screen there, Matt?
Yep, we do see it.
So what I recommend is that Trump has a war on government crime and corruption, and that he goes full force against this to solidify his reforms. And what does that look like, Matt? Well, Trump is America's top cop. He's the top law enforcement agent in the country. top magistrate, and he has, he knows about the pardon power. He can pardon whoever he wants. But the president also is given the prosecutorial power. This is one of the greatest powers in the United States. And Trump wields it with his Justice Department. And so we need to see, just as he discovered and started to fully master and use his pardoning power, we need to see Trump empowering his DOJ and his U.S. attorneys to fully use his prosecutorial power, because it is his duty and his job and the honor of the president to prosecute government crime. That is our only remedy for it. What I recommend is that Trump recruit MAGA people, outsiders, whistleblowers, not swamp creatures, not established U.S. attorneys. Jeanine Pirro is a great start. We had Ed Martin. I like Pam Bondi and others that he's brought in. I think we need more of these. I recommend that Trump call this group Trump's 21 Guns, his hired guns. These are U.S. attorneys brought in to go open up investigations. That's their power, to open investigations, make arrests, produce indictments, and prosecute crimes. That's the prosecutorial power that we need to see Trump begin to wield en masse to clean up this government. And here is a bingo card. This is an evidence board. And you can see here, these are all government crimes that we know about because we have disclosure in the media of the evidence of these crimes. We watch them on primetime television. And I have about 20 here on this board. There's more than that. But this is what I suggest, that the 21 guns from Trump's war on government crime, they open up an investigation into each and every one of these and others and pursue these to the ends of justice. You can see now I put a blue check mark like on X or Twitter over Crossfire Hurricane, because they're beginning to publicly announce their investigation into this treasonous, seditious conspiracy where they tried to run a coup in the United States of America. 21 trillion missing dollars. We need to find out what happened to that. There's a crime. USAID money laundering. The Doge Group discovered a multitude of crimes. We have the COVID crimes, 320,000 missing children, as reported by the New York Post during the Biden administration that were put with random sponsors. Where are they?
It's well laid out, the information you're sharing. And this is on top of President Trump dealing with the FBI raid to Mar-a-Lago and then all of the lawfare against President Trump starting on April 4th of 2023.
They just couldn't help themselves. They tried to run the JFK playbook on him last July in Butler, and it failed. And so now they're using the Nixon playbook to try and set him up and create a cover-up so they can do a takedown. And instead of taking him down, what they've done is pissed him off. And now he's going from Trump to Hulk Trump. They will try to destroy you if you do not use your prosecutorial investigative powers, just like you have with your pardon powers.
Mic drop from the conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon. Where can people follow you, sir?
They can find me at tsdixon.com, and they can also pick up my book, which covers all of that I've been talking about, The Woke Mind Viruses, on Amazon.com, or get the audiobook on Audible.
All right, so 11:20. So if you want to see that interview in its full context, it's on X, it's on Rumble, it's on YouTube, it's everywhere. Within the live replay of yesterday, but also specifically that interview, and also Carla Sands with the America First Policy Institute. And again, this isn't playing TV. Oh, look at this soundbite, look at that, look at this interview, look who I scored an interview with. Like, not saying T.S. Dixon or anything, but the point is, whenever there's truth being told or there's some idea that lines up with what people are wanting to see, those are the kind of things that, for me personally, I'm into. I want to hear the truth. I want to have, of course, great interviews and cover everything and all that, but really, this is about our country and our freedoms and us not ever turning into anything else other than what our country was founded on back in 1776. So that is, what else can I say, right? That's like running down the football field and getting that ball over the line, finally, touchdown. That's what we're working for. In conservative media, that's the goal, I believe, is to have a country that holds on to, I believe, the Holy Bible, the Constitution of the United States, we the people being the boss, having our representatives do what we want, and we're seeing that happen here. We're seeing that happen. We want more, but it's not just because we want more. We want more because we want to have our country fully rescued and saved, and we want the investigations to continue. And more than just talking about it, we want to see the action. This is really for the future of our nation. It really is. And I'm not just talking all drama stuff. It's not. This is legit what I believe the majority of the American people want. And I say that with a little bit of experience and a little bit of research, whether it's out there at the rallies, whether it's on Truth Social, on X, whether it's hearing what other people are saying throughout conservative media, whether it's hearing what President Trump's saying, Carolyn Levitt, Stephen Miller, on and on and on. 11/22, Tuesday, July 22nd. Thanks so much for streaming in. As we're getting ready to see the President of the United States and the Philippine President, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. And then once they greet and say hello, then they'll go into the Oval Office. As soon as we see that second part of the live footage, we'll take you there live. Looking forward to seeing the back and forth between the two leaders, also between the press and the two leaders as well. So we'll have all of that here momentarily. In the meantime, let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back here on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez, still awaiting the leader of the Philippines, the president there, Marcos Jr., Ferdinand Marcos Jr. You can see the military getting ready for the SUV to pull up. President Trump will then step out of the White House there, which is specifically at the West Wing, of course, right there, and then they'll go to the Oval Office. We'll have all of that live coverage here on the network. I also believe we may be getting a soundbite from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, from earlier today when it comes to the GOP leadership press conference. Also, we're going to go over data that shows the United States economy is back on track under President Trump. We're seeing that from the White House, but when the White House shares these reports, then you look and you see that it lines up with the facts of what's going on out there. So it's great to see that happening. This, again, as we keep our eyes on various stories that are happening, whether it's within the Beltway there in the 24/7 news cycle in D.C. or outside the Beltway. So we will bring you everything that we can get as we get it. All right, so specifically from the White House, we're hearing that even the media admits the U.S. economy is regaining its swagger under President Donald J. Trump, and you need not to look further than the banner economic news from the past week for proof. So we can go over that in just a minute here. I will say, even if the fake news says a couple things that may be accurate or right, the trust for them is gone. It's not zero. It's not 25% trust. It is negative infinity trust. The fake news is done, you know, and when I say that, I don't mean that they're not still on air spewing their garbage. What I mean is the people are not watching anymore, at least the people of the majority of the country. And if you do watch, just to see what they're saying and then, okay, move over to something else, but you don't trust what they're saying, and I think that is the key. Who do you trust when it comes to your news and information? Because obviously if you're not working in media, or if you're not in DC in politics and you live in, name a state, and you work in some other industry, which is a majority of our audience, right? Who do you trust? I think at the end of the day, when you stick to common sense and you stick to conservative values, you stick to what our foundations are about in this country, Jewish, Christian principle, faith, you know, the Bible, when you stick to freedom, when you stick to the red, white, and blue, when you stick to, you know, when you have an American barbecue and you listen to a bit of the late Toby Keith, when you stick to liking Rush Limbaugh from back in the day, those people, you trust that way more than you'll ever trust the lying, lamestream media. Let's go there live to DC.
President Trump, sir, your message to the people of the Philippines.
We love them.
Can you get a trade deal done?
And we respect their leader greatly. This is their leader.
Can you get a
He's very tough for negotiating, but that's okay.
President Marcos, you think you'll get a deal done today, sir?
I think we will.
A nice back and forth there from the press and the president of our country and the president of the Philippines. So as soon as we get that live feed from inside the Oval Office, we'll take you there live. We'll hear what President Trump says. We'll hear what President Marcos Jr. says. And specifically, of course, they'll be talking about international trade and deals and that kind of thing. But also, we'll see what else is brought up. But we'll hear from the reporters as well and get that back and forth with the Q&A as staff and other dignitaries go inside the Oval Office now as we await this live feed with both leaders. Thank you again for streaming in live with us here on Right Side. It's exactly 11:30 on the East Coast, 8:30 Western time. And thanks so much for watching in the Central and Mountain time zones as well. Shout out to everyone out there on the right side of history, and those maybe on the left side of history that still watch Right Side. Thanks for watching. Glad you're with us, and hopefully you'll see the facts that we simply just love God, love our family, love our country, and want to cover what's happening out there in this world as we continue to move forward in this growing thing called conservative media, true conservative media. And I think people know the difference. All right, so 11:31 this morning. My name is Matthew Alvarez. Thanks again for watching. Also, if you'd like to follow Right Side on Truth Social, it's at RSBN, or on X, it's at RSB Network. More than, let's just say several million people following on both. So I believe it's upwards of 4.5 million between both Truth Social and X right now. And I think that the X number, it's been at 1.1 million for a while. I don't know if it's right. I'm just going to say that. Because on Truth, it's like 3.3 million at this point. Anyway, and growing. So once again, let's go to data that shows that the U.S. economy is back on track under President Trump. Now, if you're just joining us, you're saying, well, why are you talking about the economy when there's these bigger stories that are going on out there? Well, If you watched all of our coverage, we did talk about all of the stories. Trust me, on the ones that everybody's talking about. The Epstein case, Pam Bondi has just posted something about that. And also specifically the 2016 Obama situation where the director, Tulsi Gabbard, with the Department of National Intelligence is now releasing that information to the FBI and DOJ. We'll see how all these investigations go. All right, so let's look at this from the White House. Core inflation beat market expectations for a fifth straight month. Every full month since President Trump took office. So we're talking the economy at this point. Since President Trump took office, core inflation has tracked at just 2.1%, levels not seen since the first Trump administration when prices were low and stable and right in line with the Fed's inflation target. We're hearing that wholesale prices came in completely flat, so below market expectations, and underscoring the tremendous progress made on taming the Biden-era inflation crisis. Industrial production bested market expectations with a higher than expected climb, showing that inflation is falling as domestic production surges. The White House also saying manufacturing output has surged by 1.8% in the first 5 months of President Trump's second term, compared to a negative 0.7 decline in the final 5 months preceding President Trump's inauguration. Let's stop there quickly and let's go to the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, from the GOP press conference as we await President Trump in the Oval Office.
After those 4 years of Biden and Harris, every single area of public policy was in a disastrous state. In Congress and the White House, we've been hard at work from day one of this Congress, day one of the Trump administration, trying to undo all that damage of the last 4 years. And we're laying the foundation for what will make our country safer, stronger, and more prosperous than ever before. The American people gave President Trump a clear mandate to enact his America First agenda, and Republicans answered the call. To date, we've enacted 50 of the president's executive orders, from reining in bureaucratic waste, fraud, and abuse, to passing common sense legislation, to delivering our once-in-a-generation legislative victories through the One Big Beautiful Bill. Let me give you a quick summary. Americans asked for secure borders and safer communities, and Republicans delivered the largest investment in border security and interior enforcement on record. And with the Halt Fentanyl Act and the Lake and Riley Act, we're making sure American communities are safe from deadly drugs and illegal aliens that have taken far too many lives. The American people asked us for bigger paychecks and more affordable gas and groceries, and we delivered on that too. We delivered the largest working and middle-class tax cut in the history of the United States. And we've torn down Biden-era regulations like the California EV mandate that was just madness, and worked against working families and American energy dominance. The American people demanded fiscal sanity, and Republicans delivered again. We passed more than $1.5 trillion in spending cuts so the government can begin to live within its means again. All of this is real, positive change for American families.
So that's from our first broadcast this morning. We were live at 9 a.m. all the way until about 10 when that GOP press conference took place. So that's a clip from that. This is, of course, the White House, the West Wing, as we await the live picture from the Oval Office. Now, President Trump just posting a few minutes ago. Let me double check what time this post happened as we get ready to pull it up on the screen there. I just sent it to the crew, so it takes a minute for it to pop up on screen. But it was 4 minutes ago, talking about some of the late night talk show hosts. Man, how many of us miss Johnny Carson, right? I mean, I know it was a little bit before my day, but I was still able to watch clips of the natural Johnny Carson, you know, back in the day. And we know who's talented and who's not when it comes to TV. It's straight up, especially when it comes to hosting a late night show. We know Stephen Colbert just got the boot. And also, as soon as we get this clip or this Truth Social post, we'll put it up and I'll read it to you, as you might be looking on your phone right now, but we'll get to that in just a second. As it's 11:36, Tuesday, July 22nd. Again, if you're just joining us, the Philippine President, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., just greeted, or the President of the United States just greeted the Philippine President outside of the West Wing. Then they're now going to the Oval Office, the press getting all situated there, and then we will go there live and listen in on that. It reminds me of a few of the highlights from the Oval Office over the past several months, including when Vladimir Zelensky was there. Remember when President Trump says, "You don't have the cards, I have the cards. Remember that whole back and forth, and when Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in? Or how about when the South African leader was there pretty recently, and they showed those terrible videos from what was happening there? And then one of the reporters asking a question that was totally off topic, disrespecting the lives of people that were lost. I mean, there's so many different memories just from the Oval Office from this vantage point. But let's shift back to President Trump and his Truth Social post. He said, quote, "The word is, and it's a strong word at that, Jimmy Kimmel is next to go in the untalented late night sweepstakes, and shortly thereafter, Fallon, Jimmy Fallon, will be gone. These are people with absolutely no talent who were paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go, and I hope they played a major part in it." President Trump, you know, we know as a real estate mogul, did great and still doing great with that when it comes to when he gets back into the business after being the president. Also, entertainment icon. I mean, The Apprentice, how many years did that go? How many seasons? You know, a lot of seasons, right? And then also all that to become the president of the United States, winning 3 straight elections. We know what happened in 2020. Let's go to Trump right now.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It's a great honor to have President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. of the Philippines, a great family legacy, and highly respected in his country. I know that because I have many friends in the Philippines, and there's great respect, or I couldn't say it, so congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about trade. We're going to be talking about war and peace. They're a very important nation militarily, and we've had some great drills lately. We're back with them. I think I can say that the last administration was not getting along with them too well. They didn't get along with anybody. They didn't know. Honestly, they didn't know what they were doing. But we have some fantastic military relationships with the Philippines, and that's been reinstituted. And Pete, I would say that you couldn't be happier, right, with the relationship. So I just want to say it's an honor to have you. We're going to talk about trade today, and we're very close to finishing a trade deal, big trade deal actually. And we do a lot of business with you. It's a lot of income coming in for both groups. But I was surprised to see the kind of numbers. They're very big, and they're going to get bigger under what we're doing and what we're proposing. And I just want to thank you for being with us. It's a great honor. You and your representative. It's really a great honor. We have a big announcement. AstraZeneca, the big drug company, is going to spend $50 billion, just announced $50 billion in the United States in order to build various places all over the country, big manufacturing plants, pharmaceutical plants all over the country. So that's an honor. And he said they did that because of the election and because of the fact that the tariffs are placed. So they're building their facilities in New York. $50 billion, that's a big investment. And it's going to be a very good investment. I have no doubt about it. So thank you to AstraZeneca. And with that, I'd like to have you say a few words, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Of course, we're all very happy to be here to once again reaffirm the very strong ties between the Philippines and the United States, ties that go back over 100 years. And considering the context in which we live these days, especially in my part of the world, this has evolved into as important a relationship as is possible to have. We must remember that the United States is our only treaty partner in the Philippines, and that has stood us in good stead over the years, certainly through the Second World War, and the cultural memory of all Filipinos, down to even the school children, is that our strongest, closest, most reliable ally has always been the United States. And that is something that we value, that we are grateful for, and that we will continue to foster as we go on. With the leadership of President Trump, I am very confident that we will be able to achieve that. I think it is worthwhile to remember that it was President Trump who, in his first term, characterized the relationship between the Philippines and the United States as ironclad. And that has been necessarily the case since that time that you made that statement, sir. And it is something that the Philippines will always hold close to its heart. Thank you once again, and we are honored, and it is our great pleasure to be here and to visit with the President of the United States. Thank you, sir.
It's my great honor. Any questions, please? Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. President, do you think that Fed Chair Jerome Powell should resign?
No, I think he's doing a bad job, but he's going to be out pretty soon anyway. In eight months, he'll be out. But I call him too late. He's too late all the time. He should have lowered interest rates many times. Europe lowered their rate 10 times. We lowered ours none. And it's causing a problem for people that want to buy a home. Look, our economy is so strong now, we're blowing through everything. We're setting records. You know that. You see that. And whether it's the Philippines or anyone else, we're setting records at levels that nobody's ever seen before. But you know what? People aren't able to buy a house because this guy is a numbskull. He keeps the rates too high, and probably doing it for political reasons. The only time I remember him cutting rates, I mean, he cut the rates just before the election to try and help Kamala or whoever he was trying to help. He probably didn't know. And he's building a building. He's $2.7 billion. They have a $900 million overrun. What is that? And that was given by Biden. That was another Biden deal. And this guy's building this building that's severely overrun. And what does he need the building for? What does he need? He needs space for more people. So they did a big study the other day, and they called all of the great intellects and the great economists and all of the great everything. And it was 71, and only 2 got it right. Me and another gentleman that happens to be very smart. 69 people got it wrong, and the Fed got it wrong, more wrong than anybody. And, you know, he has these think tanks, and they build buildings for people that think. And it's really not thinking. It's a little bit of combination of thinking, but it's something you sort of have or you don't have. They don't. The job he's done is just terrible. He ought to raise interest rates. You know, we should be at 1%. We should be leading the world. Instead, we're paying 4%. And if you look at what that means, that's over $1 trillion in interest that we have to pay. That with the striking of a pen, we would be saving more than $1 trillion. Is that right, Scott?
Yes,
Do you have anything to say about it?
Yes, sir. I called yesterday and this morning for the Fed to do a big internal investigation to understand not their monetary policy, but everything else. The Fed has had big mission creep, and that's where a lot of the spending's going. That's why they're building these new or refurbishing these buildings. And I think they got to stay in their lane. And I think that based on the way they cut rates last fall, they should be cutting rates now.
It's inconceivable. I know the Fed very well that they can be spending $2.7 billion to build a building. They don't do anything. It's the greatest job. You show up one day, a half a day, you make a little speech. The economy is doing well. The economy is not doing well. We're going to raise interest. And he's got it wrong. That's why I call him too late. TOO, too late. And it's really too bad. But it is affecting people that want to buy houses, and that shouldn't happen. And you know, he should lower them. Those rates should be 3 points lower. That's what they should be, 3 points lower, maybe more than that.
Mr. President, I would like to ask both for you one person. Mr. President Marcos, next year, Philippines is going to be the rotating chair of ASEAN. I wonder how do you plan to balance your relationship between the United States and China? And for President Trump, Kremlin yesterday said if you are going to Beijing in September, they wouldn't rule out a meeting between you and President Putin. Is such a meeting possible? And how soon do you plan to visit China?
Well, we have a lot of meetings possible. President Xi has invited me to China, and we'll probably be doing that in the not too distant future, a little bit out, but not too distant. And I've been invited by a lot of people, and we'll make those decisions pretty soon. Please.
Well, as you say, we are chairing ASEAN for 2026. There is no need, in a sense, to balance, as you characterize as, to balance our relationship between the United States and China, simply because our foreign policy is an independent one, and we are essentially concerned with the defense of our territory and the exercise of our sovereign rights. Now, whether we do this not alone, we need to do this with our partners. And again, our strongest partner has always been the United States. But of course, we are trying to form coalitions and multilateral relations so that those like-minded nations who share the same values as we do, who hew to international law, most specifically the UNCLOS, present that position very clearly to anyone who has intentions of unilaterally changing the world order, and that is how we are guided in that.
And I don't mind if he gets along with China, because we're getting along with China very well. We have a very good relationship. In fact, the magnets, which is a little complex piece of material, but the magnets are coming out, very well. They're sending them in record numbers. We're getting along with China very well, and I don't mind if the president dealt with China. If that's meant, because I think he has to do what's right for his country. I've always said, make the Philippines great again. Do whatever you need to do, but you're dealing with China wouldn't bother me at all.
No, well, now it is something that we have to do in any case, and certainly that.
Mr. President, do you support the Justice Department seeking an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell? Did you urge the Attorney General to seek?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
Your Deputy Attorney General has reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given...
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. When we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President?
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper. The whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there in a room. Right here, this was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question... I like to say, let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like that. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was to, and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election. They refused to put it in. The Steele report was a disaster. All lies, all fabrication, all admitted, an admitted fraud. She paid $12 million, and the Democrats, for that report to a wise guy named Christopher Steele. He wrote a phony report, and they wanted to get that report in before the election. And I'll tell you what, I talk about all the time, the fake news, how bad it is. But in this case, they wouldn't do it. They saw it, they read it, and they said, we don't believe it. And it was only after, substantially, like a month and a half after the election, that it got printed, and it was a big wisp. It was just like a bang of nothing, because the election had ended. If that report had gotten published by the New York Times or somebody, and I respect the Times for maybe only this, because they're crooked as you can be. They're a terrible paper, a crooked, corrupt paper. But for this one moment, they said, this is bullshit, we can't put this in. And neither could any other paper. Wall Street Journal's a lousy paper, very, very dishonest paper. As you see, I'm suing them for a lot of money because they do things very badly. It's got a nice name, but it's really, in my opinion, it's a terrible paper. And it can be corrupt. But just so you know, they didn't take the Steele report. It was the dossier. Remember the famous dossier? I called it the fake news dossier. The news wouldn't publish it. And I'm amazed. They had 2.5 months. It was finished. 2.5 months. That was supposed to be what was going to happen. And it got published a couple of months after the election. And frankly, nobody cared too much about it. But that was a big thing. No, we caught Hillary Clinton. We caught Barack Hussein Obama. They're the ones. And then you have many, many people under them. Susan Rice. They're all there. The names are all there. And I guess they figured they're going to put this in classified information and nobody will ever see it again. But it doesn't work that way. And it's the most unbelievable thing I think I've ever read. So you ought to take a look at that and stop talking about nonsense, because this is big stuff. Never has a thing like this happened in the history of our country. And by the way, it morphed into the 2020 race. And the 2020 race was rigged, and it was a rigged election. And because it was rigged, we have millions of people in our country. We had inflation. We solved the inflation problem. But millions and millions of people came into our country because of that. And people that shouldn't have been, people from gangs and from jails and from mental institutions, people that we don't want in our country, and people that we're getting out, dangerous people. 11,888 murderers, many of them 50%, more than 50%, murdered more than one person. I hate to say this with such a distinguished guest, but They asked me a question. I got to answer the question. No, Barack Hussein Obama is the ringleader. Hillary Clinton was right there with him, and so was Sleepy Joe Biden, and so were the rest of them. Comey, Clapper, the whole group. And they tried to rig an election, and they got caught. And then they did rig the election in 2020. And then because I knew I won that election by a lot, I did it a third time, and I won in a landslide. Every swing state won the popular vote. But I won that all the same way in 2020. And look at the damage that was caused.
How crucial is the ammunition hub that the U.S. plans to build in Subic and then the zone corridor, considering that these will be built in areas that hosts strategic ports as well as military air bases?
You're talking ammunition?
Yes, the U.S. House Congressional Committee on Appropriations approved a budget.
Well, it's very important. Otherwise, we wouldn't have approved it.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's very important. Otherwise, we wouldn't. We need ammunition. We're going to end up in a few months, we'll have more ammunition than any country has ever had. We're going to have more missiles than any country has ever had. We're going to have all the speedy missiles. We'll have the speedy ones, the slow ones, the accurate ones, the ones that are slightly less accurate. We have everything. But we will have more ammunition than any country has ever had. It's very important to me. Okay. Go ahead, please, Red.
Sir, when you say that you're close to making a trade deal, what gaps remain? And for President Marcos, sir, I was just wondering, do you not think that perhaps the Philippines hosting U.S. missile systems could be considered escalatory by China, especially because they can strike deep into neighboring China? Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be with this gentleman. I've known him, and I've known his family, actually, but I've known him. And I assume you're from the Philippines? Are you from the Philippines?
Yes, sir.
That's good. You're very lucky to be from the Philippines, right? It's a great place. But we're going to have a very good relationship. I mean, I know you had some problems with another president, and it was not your fault. It was the president's fault. And the country was maybe tilting toward China, but we untilted it very, very quickly. But you had a country that was tilting toward China for a period of time, and I just don't think that would have been good for you. You can deal with China, you should deal with China, but when I got elected, everything changed, and they came right back to us. Say it again? Yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Oh, Mr. President, I just wanted to piggyback off the
Sorry, I
housing.
have a question to President Marcos.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was the question again?
It was about whether having U.S. missiles hosted in the Philippines could be considered escalatory by China.
All of what we consider part of the modernization of the Philippine military is really as a response to the circumstances that surround the situation around the South China Sea and now what we used to refer to as Asia Pacific, which we have expanded now to the Indo-Pacific. And if we would certainly, like in any kind of military spending, we would wish that it wasn't necessary, but it is. And so that is what we are doing. And as an adjunct to the question about the ammunition production, this is actually the United States is assisting the Philippines in what we call our self-reliance defense program, which is to allow us to be self-reliant and to be able to stand our own 2 feet, whatever the circumstances that occur in the future. And the reason that we have encouraged more interaction with the United States is because it is necessary. And it is not just with the United States. It is with all our neighboring countries and even countries as far afield as the Scandinavian countries, the EU. And so this is an ongoing process. And again, I will stress the point that we do this because we feel it is necessary.
And don't forget, just as tantamount to what you're asking, the Philippines were loaded up with ISIS and a lot of terrorists, and they were at a very, very dangerous point. And during my administration, we went in and we wiped them out, working with the Philippines, but we wiped them out. But if we didn't go in, I don't know what would have happened. I don't know who would be your president right now. But we spent a lot of time and a lot of talent on going into the Philippines and wiping out terrorists. They had a tremendous problem during my administration. And we cleaned it up, we got them out, and now you really have a good, solid country again.
I believe so. Yes, Mr.
How can you
President.
make more president,
Mr.
sir?
President, I
Right.
want to follow up on the housing question.
Yeah.
We've got no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. How important is it we have no tax on home sales, capital gains, to unleash the housing market in this country?
Well, we're thinking about that, but would also unleash it just by lowering the interest rates. If the Fed would lower the rates, we wouldn't even have to do that. But we are thinking about no tax on capital gains on houses. And I'm very impressed that you asked that question because nobody knew that.
Well,
How did you find that out? That's very.
I wonder why there's somebody, I'm very close to
There's
that
a leaker. There's a leaker.
I've also got a question. I find it a very interesting world that we know more about two people at a Coldplay concert just hours after that viral video than we know of Thomas Crooks 1 year after attempting to assassinate you. What is holding back the investigation on Thomas Crooks?
Well, they've reported to me and they've told me things, and they really say they haven't found anything that was abnormal. I would say this: the Secret Service was very brave because they were right there and they jumped on me. They made a mistake. They should have had somebody on that roof, and they should have had communication with the local police, who also, they did a very good job, but they made some mistakes, and we have a whole different group of people now. I don't think anything can happen, but I think we have the best people anywhere in the world right now, and I think they've learned. And, they went into him very, in great detail. They gave me the whole thing. And what can I do? They say that it was just a nut job that was looking to do this. And I spoke with the FBI, the new FBI. I spoke to the FBI. If it was the old FBI, I wouldn't have believed a thing they said, because the old FBI under Comey was crooked as hell. He was one of the most crooked. Everybody should read the Horowitz report. Unfortunately, Bill Barr didn't use it. But the Horowitz report, not appointed by me, it was a report on Comey and the FBI. It is one of the worst shots at a human being I think I've ever seen. In fact, the New York Times did an editorial that was one of the worst editorials I've ever seen about anybody. That was about Comey. You ought to go back and get, and Barr didn't use it because he didn't have the guts to use it, or something happened. I don't know. Too bad. He went to Mr. Durham. Instead of doing the Durham, all they had to use is the Horowitz report. And I always felt badly for Horowitz, frankly, because he's a Democrat, I guess. He was appointed by a Democrat. But that report has gotten lost, and it shouldn't be lost. You should all go back. It should be mandatory reading. Go back and read the Horowitz report on Comey and his cronies. And you'll see exactly. We're going to add that to all the stuff that we found. It just confirms it. But what we found is even more so. Now, we found absolute, this isn't like evidence, this is like proof, irrefutable proof that Obama was seditious, that Obama was trying to lead a coup. And it was with Hillary Clinton, with all these other people, but Obama headed it up. And, I get a kick when I hear everyone talks about people I never even heard of. It was this one. No. It was Obama. He headed it up. And it says so right in the papers. Got everything. This is the biggest scandal in the history of our country. And it really goes on to even the auto pen, because it all relates to the same thing. It all started the same sick minds. You have an auto pen, which is a tremendous, well, we don't have a president. We have an auto pen that signs everything. I'll bet you sign everything. You don't have auto pens. No, everybody. Who doesn't sign? You're the president of a country. But it's all that whole thing leading right up to the end of it is the auto pen. And the auto pen was used by people, and Biden knew nothing about it. They were signing documents that he knew nothing about. As an example, they released the Unselect Committee of Liability. The Unselect Committee spent 2 years grilling everybody, and then they destroyed all the evidence. You know why? Because the evidence made them guilty, and he gave them all a pardon. The Cheney, all the scum that was on the Unselect Committee, Cryan, Adam Kinzinger, and Democrats, and he gave them a pardon. Do you have something else, guys?
I was just going to add one more thing on Adam Schiff. Director Pulte reports that Adam Schiff claims he lived in a one-bedroom apartment. Now, how does a family of four, and you're a developer, a very successful developer, how does a family of four live in a one-bedroom apartment?
No, it looks like Adam Schiff really did a bad thing. They have him. Now, let's see what happens. It's not up to me. It's not up to, I stay out of it purposely. But it's mortgage loan fraud. It's a big deal. He defrauded banks and insurance companies and the federal government. But it's very simple. It's mortgage loan fraud. And you're right. That's a lot of people to live in a one-bedroom apartment, right? But he put it down. But he has a lot of other things far worse than that. So, no, Adam Schiff, they have him 100% on mortgage fraud. Now, if there's anybody else in this room except you would have no problem. But anybody else in this room, you'd have a problem. I'd have a problem. Yeah, please.
So there was a hearing yesterday in the Harvard case. Would you allow Harvard to get their federal dollars back as a part of any agreement with the administration?
No, I'm not giving. Harvard's been given $7 billion. Can you believe it? By the $7 billion, and we want money to go to all universities, not Harvard. Harvard got more than anybody else. They have $52 billion. They get huge tax incentives and tax breaks on that $52 billion. But they have $52 billion, and they got $7 billion over a short period of time. And we have a very hostile judge appointed by Barack Hussein Obama, a very, very hostile judge who knows exactly right from wrong, but you know we expect to win it on appeal. She hasn't given a decision yet, but she's very hostile, and she was put by Barack Hussein Obama, and generally speaking, anybody that does that, we're gonna have problems with. So we don't expect to have. We won the case yesterday. Anybody that was there, that was a neutral, would say we easily won the case. But a lot of the case and a big part of it's going to be how much money Harvard gets in the future. That's not part of the case, and they're not going to get very much.
Mr. President, where are we in terms of negotiating about the reciprocal tariff? How far are we
With who?
from
With the Philippines?
Yes, sir. How far
Are you
we
from the Philippines?
Yes, sir.
Good.
I'm from the Philippines. How far are we from achieving?
Well, it's tough. He's a very tough negotiator. So far, we're not there because he's negotiating too tough. In fact, I used to like him better than I do now. He's too tough. But we'll probably agree to something. But he's a strong negotiator. He loves your country.
Mr.
President, when are you coming to the Philippines, sir?
You talked a lot about the severe consequences that those who were involved in the Russia hoax must face. In your view, sir, what are the next steps now that these documents are out there in Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, the Justice Department would have to act. And we have a very competent, very good, very loyal to our country person in Pam Bondi, very respected. And it's going to be her decision.
Just a follow-up to that, sir. Kristi Noem was in New York City visiting an off-duty CBP officer who was allegedly shot this weekend by an illegal alien who came into the country during the previous administration.
Right.
What is your message to any local leaders who continue to push sanctuary city policies after this nearly tragic incident?
So the only thing I don't understand, because you like to understand things and we're all smart people and all, but why would they allow 21 million people into our country, unvetted, unchecked? You don't allow it. You wouldn't allow people then. He's tough. No, their country's run properly. Biden and his group of thugs, and I don't think it was Biden, I think it was the people that surrounded that beautiful Resolute desk right behind you. They allowed 21 million people, probably much more than that, and many of them came from jails and gangs and drug dealers and mental institutions, insane asylums. Many of them are very sick. 21 million, probably 25 million, probably even more than that. And we're getting them out. Many were murderers, as I said. They killed people. Many killed more than one person. Stone cold murderers. I don't understand why they would have allowed that. There's only two reasons. The vote. Is they want voters? That's one reason. I don't think they would have done it for that because they cheat. You know, they're so good at cheating, they don't need that. But the vote, and the second reason is they hate our country. I think they hate our country. I actually do. And it's the biggest problem. I mean, much of our time is spent with, you know, we have the strongest border anywhere in the world now. Maybe even stronger than your border, if you can believe it. We have no people came in last month, zero. which is pretty amazing. I'm not even sure I can believe that. But liberals are the ones that do that calculation. So, but we had no people come in. A year ago, we had hundreds of thousands of people come in. Hundreds of thousands of people. And they flowed in. And if it wasn't for the election, it would have been millions of people came in last year. So millions of people prior to election time, they allowed millions and millions of people to come into our, I mean, you saw it. They'd open the gates. If you took an Alabama LSU football game that holds 128,000 people, I was there, 128,000 people, and I liked them and they liked me. But if you took that and doubled it, that's what used to flow into our country on a daily basis. It's not even believable. And we're getting them out, and we're starting with the worst ones. And we had a man shot yesterday, a police officer who's a great gentleman, shot right here in the throat. Probably won't be able to speak again. But he was brave, and he shot the other guy, and they ended up getting him. And you saw the scene where his friend took him to a hospital and dumped him down on the sidewalk. The whole thing was crazy. But why would anybody do to our country what these Democrats have done? And honestly, we can never forget it. We can never forget it. What they have done, the damage that they've done to America is very, very sad. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Fred, for heading out. Heading out right today. Thank you, Fred, for moving. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you, Fred, so much for moving towards the door. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Fred. Thank you, Fred. How's your health? Thank you. Thank you. Come on. How's your health? Let's go, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Work on the trade deal. Thanks, guys. Really take to work on the trade deal.
Well, there you go. President Trump addressing all of the top stories happening within this 24/7 news cycle from the Oval Office. If you're just joining us, go ahead and replay the president's statements. The best way to get it is directly from the President of the United States to hear what he's saying. And of course, in the media, we hear what he says and then we base it on fact. And I'll tell you what, that's a lot of common sense that we just heard there from President Trump as we continue to cover all of the stories that he was just talking about as well. We have the latest ex-post from Pam Bondi in regards to Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, going to speak with Ghislaine Maxwell. Also, we have the latest from Tulsi Gabbard when it comes to this investigation that President Trump was talking about. The gloves, figuratively speaking, are off. President Trump doing what he has to do for the country, for we the people. All right, so this live stream broadcast brought to you by some great sponsors, including All Family Pharmacy. If you've been frustrated with some of the long pharmacy lines, insurance, headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. So All Family Pharmacy is changing how people get their medications. No insurance, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. So they carry the essentials like NAD+, or methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and also over 200 medications. So you can really, it's perfect for staying prepared or supporting your health or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And guess what? They actually bring that doctor's prescription as well with this order. So no extra steps, no hassle, it's simple. Quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacists who believe in one thing, making America healthy again. So just go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. That's allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. That RSBN promo code is RSBN10. One other sponsor, angelpace.com as well out of Spring, Texas. If you use the RSBN promo code there, you also save money with all of the products there, including the Miracle Cream and all of the products that you'll see on angelpace.com. Again, out of Spring, Texas, they hire military veterans, a long-time sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so it's 12:15 Eastern Time. Thanks so much for joining us live here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. We're just getting started. There's another broadcast at 2 o'clock today when it comes to the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee, all about Joe Biden's open borders. We're going to hear about that at 2 o'clock. And any other breaking news that happens or developing news, you can count on Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again soon.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.